Hello there. It's still me, Kirk. This is still Dumb Tessellate. We're still kicking in the new year, still creating stories, telling stories sometimes. So let's get into this next one. This is season 3, episode 11. Can you believe it? We're still going. And it's going to be a continuation of the story that I came up with from the last episode 10, the ghost child story that I my first story of the new year. This is going to be a continuation from it. So let's get into it and start creating. Now time for some interactive fun. Also, this episode is brought to you by the fancy Gouda cheese that I just bought from the grocery store that was not on sale. And also these super bougie, I was about to say crackers, but they're not even crackers. It's so bougie. They're called crisps, Philo crisps with apricot and honey, because we're going full bougie tonight. But yeah, let's get into our story. I lied. Okay, we're not jumps to the story yet. First things first. One of the things I worry about with this podcast is as a long run podcast and I continue episodes, most of my episodes don't stand alone, and I kind of want to do that. Like going into this new year, one of the things I want to do is every idea I want to have a minimum of 2 episodes, like per the idea I came up with. Like I said, the last episode was the ghost story that I've been working on in my head, and it was kind of the first just throwing it out there and seeing what sticks and just getting it out there. The first stream of consciousness, just throwing it at the artistic wall and seeing what actually works out. And so the minimum, like I said, 2 episodes. The second episode is just me trying to narrow stuff down, work stuff out, gets more stuff out from this original idea. The second part of the stream of consciousness, you work on it more, you shaped it more. The whole creativity thing. I need to be saying that more because I need to define what this podcast is. Like, yeah, after all these episodes and years I've been doing this, I should define it at some point. It's not just me throwing ideas out there, me coming up with random ideas and yelling to you all about it. But it's a story creating, which leads to a storytelling podcast, but it's a podcast about creativity because that's the whole thing, is creating. You find your medium, you get your ideas out, you throw them against the wall like I'm doing right now as I ramble, and then you see what sticks, and then you work it out, you shape it into your form of art, your canvas or whatever. For me, this is audio. So what I need to be doing, and what the essence of this podcast is, other than a creativity podcast, is I need to be painting a picture with my words in this audio format. That's kind of my mission statement. I hate that term. Like, being in the business world, you always hear that. What's the mission statement of this company? What's your mission statement? But I'm a creative soul, but you do have to have a mission statement. I mean, if you're truly an artist person out there and you listen to this, come up with a better term than mission statement or whatever. Come up with something that sounds better and more cooler. We'll work on that together. Maybe I'll task AI with coming up with that. What's a cool way of saying it's my mission statement? But that is my mission statement for this podcast. I need to paint a picture from the random ideas I get for you, the listener. And thanks for listening. But like I said, this is Kirk, this is Dumb Tessellate. And last episode, I had an idea about, I was literally I wasn't at work. I was at lunch, a work lunch. And I was talking to a coworker, a boss. She was telling me this ghost story. Go back and listen to last episode. But to recap, she moved into a house where the previous owner had a young child that died in the house. And then like her child, when she was growing up, she would catch her child playing in the closet with her imaginary friend Thomas, and found out that the boy that died that lived there before was named Thomas. And so my idea was that I would be in this work setting and my boss or my coworker will bring her daughter in, her actual daughter. But then I would see this other child with them, and then the child, the ghost child, my character does not realize that that's a ghost child. And that he's the only one, him and the character's boss. Sorry, this is getting confusing, but they're the only two that can see them because the ghost child kind of stuck around with the actual child, my boss's child. But then when they come into the office one time, the ghost follows her there. But then, sorry, this episode's going to have weird cuts because I cannot think of words today. I kept trying to think of the word imprint, and all that kept popping up in my head, it was impregnate, and that's not where this story is going. So the ghost child imprints on my boss's actual physical child, but then she brings her into work and like, bring your child to work today. And then the ghost child comes to work and somehow imprints on my character because my character can see him, but he doesn't realize it's a ghost. He's confused. He thought he's like, it's like an open workspace and there's all these kids running around and he thinks he's one of the kids, but then he stays late and then he kind of sees glimpses of the kid and he doesn't know what's going on. But then you realize that the ghost is there and it's stuck in this workplace with him. So that's kind of that's the first idea I had. That's the one I threw against the wall. And this is more of me taking a while to think about it and kind of express that idea more. So last episode, 2 weeks ago, week and a half. Okay, last episode, I didn't have a title. So the first title I came up with is A Certain Visitor. This goes back to an old vampire origin story that I was reading called A Certain Shoemaker, but that's like an older idea I'd worked on that might come up later on for a future episode. Don't worry about it. That's like the first one, A Certain Visitor. It just stuck with me when I was thinking about what a title will be. But then I'm thinking like the way this story is going to go, I was thinking about Ghostwriter, but that's been used. There was a TV show, there's movies called Ghostwriter, there's book series called Ghostwriter. So I kind of don't want to take for something that's already been done. It can be good. My idea can be confused with something else because to me, this is going to be not what I didn't come up with this term, but what I'm thinking is going to be a Trojan horse story. When I say that, it's going to be the outside of this, you're going to think of it as a suspense or a horror movie because this is a ghost little kid. You're going to think of The Sixth Sense. But if you watch The Sixth Sense and like if you watch it again, especially if you haven't watched it in a while, of course it's suspenseful. It's a horror movie. It has the big twist at the end. It's about ghosts, about a kid seeing ghosts, but it's really like a human relationship story. It's like watch it again. It's about the relationship of the kid who could see ghosts, Haley Joel Osment, and his mom, who's a single mom who's struggling to understand this weird little kid who can see ghosts. Also, it's about Bruce Willis's character who, spoiler alert, find out he's a ghost at the end. That's the twist. But his relationship, not realizing that he's dead, and it's kind of this lost, him trying to grasp at this whole relationship with his wife. But there's all that stuff like that. My story is going to be a Trojan horse story where you think it's this kind of the same thing where it's going to be a ghost story and my character is haunted and it's all this scary stuff. It was good, like The Grudge or all those other ghost stories. There was one a while ago where no, because I'm going to ramble on. But the thing that's going to be inside the Trojan horse for this story that's not a horror, it's going to be kind of a genuine, like, not cute, I don't want to say cute, but human story where this ghost you think is going to haunt him and trying to kill him, because there's this other newer kid ghost story called Dear David that I listened to a podcast of, but I'm too scared to watch it almost. But you think it's haunting this person and they're going to drive him insane and stuff like that, drag him to hell or anything like that. But no, like in The Sixth Sense, where Haley Joel Osment's character, who can see ghosts as a kid, he had to help ghosts understand that they were gone or that they were actually ghosts. Big twist in the movie. There's this thing with the ghost stories like this in the ghost movies where the ghost comes back, the spirit comes back because they have unfinished business and you have to help them do that. So the difference in mine is that my character is going to think he has to do that. But the switch is that while he thinks he's like going along the trope of like he's seen horror movies before, he's seen The Sixth Sense. While he trying to, the ghost of this little boy that imprints on him. He's trying to get that out of him. What he realizes after a while is that the ghost of this little boy that's here is doing something for him in the real world. And it takes him a while to figure that out. That's why I said it's like a Trojan horse story. It's going to be a relationship with reality and kind of spoiler of a sad thing that my character has to come to grips with his past. Like he lost a child in a previous relationship, and it was really hard for him, and it kind of tore his earlier marriage and relationship up. And he, even though he's moved on and had this life after that, he really hasn't come to grips with that. And this little boy is there to help him with that. And also, spoiler alert to this imaginary story I'm coming up with, this is going to be a jump to the end. My character has to come to grips with his own mortality in that he is kind of at the end of his life, and he realizes that he has a disease, whatever, throw the cancer thing in there or something like that, for a story that my characters can't come to grips with. Like he's never really dealt with death. Like you said, he has this past of losing a child at a young age in a previous relationship he never dealt with. And he has to face his own mortality because he finds out that, he's dying pretty soon. So that's, he realizes that he doesn't have to do something for this child to let this child be free. The child is, I had to stop to think about the word imprint again. I'm going to write that down like on my hand so I can't forget it. The child imprints on him because the child's purpose still being, a ghost trapped in this human world, this real life. He has his purpose, and it's to help my character deal with his own mortality, his past, kind of his future too. So that's how the story is going to go. It's going to be a Trojan horse story. You're going to walk in thinking it's this suspense, this grudge movie. He's being haunted. He's going to be dragged to hell. But no, it becomes a human story, because the other backdrop of my story is my character, my human character. And I just came up with this recently. First, his name is going to be Clark, because that name just came to me when I was using like AI image generators to come up with art for this, for the cover art. If you look at the cover art for this podcast, I wanted a picture of like a writer or something like that. And I was like, oh, this looks like a Clark. And actually the name Clark it's from the English occupational surname meaning clerk or secretary, originally from Latin meaning wise and intelligent scholar. I was like, oh, that fits. Because like I said, the other backdrop of my story for my character Clark is that it's going to be set a little while in the future where to hop on the AI fear bandwagon, even though sometimes I use AI for these podcasts. Not for this episode. I just wanted my own thoughts. But sorry, a side ramble. That my character is a writer. He's a bit older, but he's been a writer his whole life. But in this world, he's a journalist or a writer, he's a journalist and a writer. But like where he works now, he's is for a publishing house that's basically just AI. And that like real writers like him, where he came up and all this stuff, they don't really exist anymore. Everything is just AI pumped out. Like I said, the big AI fear of the future. And that like his only job is to basically proofread and fact check AI, so nothing crazy comes out. And he's like stuck in this monotony. And then he meets this ghost child that imprints on him and kind of helps him deal with some mortality, and it helps him write this set of children's books, or this children's story that help children deal with death and mortality and, illness and all this stuff in a very calm and good way. So that's kind of why I had the idea of calling it Ghostwriter, and also stealing an old, not old, but kind of a previous series that I was working on that I need to go back to. I created a title called Muse That Follows for another story idea I had. Maybe I'll steal that one. But I love that title, Muse That Follows, because the little ghost boy is his muse. And like I said, that's the backstory. The ghost child, Thomas, I already forgot his name, helps my character Clark deal with his own mortality, and Clark uses that to write these amazing children's story series about, helping kids deal with life and death and all this stuff in a great way, because Clark is now having to deal with this ghost child that he's basically babysitting every day in the office. He basically can talk to someone from the other side, and he, gets this calm feeling of mortality and dealing with his past issues with losing a child and his own upcoming, deal with mortality that he might pass because of this disease he has to deal with. So that's my Trojan story and my second part of it. This is kind of me shaping it. Like I said, to come around to a full thing, the first episode was kind of me just throwing the spaghetti at the wall, and this is me shaping it into some kind of image. Sorry for the weird cuts in this. The last weird cut, like I forgot the word imprint again. And then there was a weird cut where I was choking because the air is off in my little apartment, and I am like full on flop sweating now, and I had to grab a LaCroix. Also, this episode is brought to you by LaCroix. Drink LaCroix. No. I mean, if they want to pay me, sure. But yeah, that's the story. The story in two parts that I've gotten so far. I don't know if I'll come back to this one for the next episode. I kind of have some newer episode ideas that kind of go down a dark path. Like, this is a ghost story. It's a human mortality, human relationship, kind of a bright in a dark Trojan horse story. But the next story, I'm going to maybe revisit an older story. Maybe I have some new ones, but they're kind of going down a dark path. Hopefully, but they have good morals in them. It's okay to write dark stories, but have like a good moral hidden in there. Like this one, you're going to think it's the Trojan. Oh, it's another grudge, little kid haunting this man, but it's a human, sweet story in this that hopefully has a happy ending. If I ever think about that happier ending, or I think about more about my character Clark and his little ghost friend Thomas, for this a certain visitor story, because the ghost is Thomas and he comes to visit Clark. Maybe I'll do this episode again, but for now, this is all I've had. If something pops up, like I said, I want to do a minimum of 2 episodes per idea. And so, like, we're still in the beginning of the year. This is still January of 2025. This is my second episode. So on the next one, you might hear a brand new story or a revisit to an old one. But we'll see how that goes. But thanks for listening. Sorry for rambling, but if you listen to me more than one episode, you know I love to ramble. But yeah, that's where I will end it. I need to go eat my bougie cheese and bougie crisps and finish this LaCroix and turn the air back on. I am dying. It's January and hot and humid. But thanks. Maybe you'll hear from Clark and the ghost boy Thomas again. We'll see how this goes. But yeah, let me end it before I keep rambling on to nonsense. But I'm still Kirk. This is still Dumb Test Slate. We're still creating. We're still storytelling, story creating, and hopefully I painted not madness, but a decent picture of my ideas with my words in this audio format. Hopefully I did that for you today or whenever you listen to this. But be good to yourself, be good to others, enjoy this year so far. Cook something good for yourself, cook something good for somebody else. Who knows what's out there. But yeah, bye. End it.